Hello, everybody. I'm Robert Iducci here for Ulysses Spiel, Ulysses International, and we're doing a read through of the day one adventures for Torg Eternity. Hello, Planer. So we're doing these read throughs because we for a couple things. One, we have a stay at home and play initiative still going on. You can go to the website, and if you find the stay at home and play article, it's all about Torg Eternity. It talks about uh, some of the content we're giving away at Pay What You Want on Drive Through RPG. You can get the main Torg Eternity book. You can get the drama deck, the GM screen, and the archetypes for the day one adventures. You can also get the Up the Creek quick start, Pay What You Want. So all of that stuff is inexpensive. You know, if you can afford to throw us a couple dollars, please do. But if you can't afford it, we just want you playing the game. So go ahead and grab that stuff, and you can dig in. One of those things that we are giving away is the day one adventures, and we read the Living Landed adventure, which was a 3-act adventure a couple of weeks ago. So now we're gonna get into Tharkold, and we're doing Tharkold because Tharkold has just been announced. Not just been announced, but we've announced when we're doing the crowdfunding, and that's going to be actually later this month. So June 23rd through July 14th. June 23rd through July 14th is going to be the Tharkold Kickstarter crowdfunding. Apologies. So go ahead and check that out. We've also released a couple of articles about Tharkold and what you can see inside those, what you're going to be able to see inside the Tharkold Kickstarter crowdfunding. Apologies. So let's get into this day one adventure. So the Tharkold adventure is going to be the Tharkold adventure or crowdfunding is going to be kind of like what happens in basically year one and year two. And this adventure is the day one. So like what happened the day the Maelstrom bridges came to Russia. So let's just start reading, see what we get. There's some Torg Day 1 stuff in this article. Yeah, so if you go to ulysses-us.com, you can find that, the Day 1 stuff. So, during the deadly first day of Tharkold invasion, 6 elite soldiers are tasked with driving into the center of Moscow to recover data and the scientists monitoring the Maelstrom Bridge. The soldiers must defeat or avoid Tharkold forces in the area and decide how to handle any nearby civilians. Horror awaits the team within the lab. Only one of the scientists remain alive, and he's quite mad. He's certain the group's arrival means the High Command has decided to use their last resort, deploying a nuclear warhead against the bridge over Moscow. The soldiers must race to get out of Moscow in time, the thralls and ghouls harassing them every step of the way. Anyone who escapes is faced with the final choice: return to a military they no longer trust, or try to find their own way in the new wasteland created in the wake of the fallen bridge. Moments of crisis. 4 elite soldiers simply battling the forces of the High Lords isn't enough to trigger a moment of crisis. The warriors must make a choice to go beyond their mission and protect civilians or core Earth hardpoints to transcend. And so this is one of the moments on how these characters transcend from being an ordinary person to a Storm Knight. And so these first characters here, these are sort of the generic characters that you can play, and the stats here in brackets are things that they'll get once they become a Storm Knight, once they have their moment of crisis. And all these characters can be downloaded at Ulysses' website in the download section as the day one character archetypes as well. So these as full characters. Scene 1. Mission Moscow. It hasn't been a full day yet since a twisted column of dark metal writhing like grotesque tentacle dropped from the sky and landed on the Kremlin like a hammer. Technological monstrosities spilled out of it, and fighting erupted all over Moscow. The heroes are in a military staging area in northern Moscow. They are a team of special forces soldiers, Spetsnaz, specializing in high-risk rescue and extractions. They've just arrived on the staging area outside of Moscow on a transport plane. All around them, soldiers dismantle equipment and pile boxes of ammunition and supplies into large transport trucks. The battle apparently is not going well, and what's left of the conventional forces are leaving. Let's create an image of a cyber demon. The Battle of Moscow did not go well for the troops on the ground. The men encountered on the way to the briefing all seem shaken. There are rampant rumors of entire divisions lost, massive civilian casualties, and demonic foes. The briefing. After setting the scene, paraphrase or read aloud the mission briefing from Colonel Morozov, the officer in charge. 7 hours ago, a strange object appeared in the sky over the Kremlin. Its landing precipitated an invasion that has left our forces in tatters and untold civilian casualties in its wake. The general staff have called it a full retreat. Moscow is lost to the enemy. But there is something within the city we need. A hidden scientific research outpost lies at the coordinates in your packets. Your priority mission is to enter the base and secure all data collected on the Moscow event. Your secondary and optional objective is the recovery of the 3 scientists working within the lab. The hated enemy are jamming all communications, so you will be on your own. Once you've recovered the data, you are to immediately extract to Rally Point Trinity, approximately 70 kilometers north of your target. You are expected to arrive by 2100 hours, no later. Good luck, comrades. The team is assigned a GAZ Tiger, page 97, for transport, and the complement of weaponry found on their character sheets. The team is on a strict timetable, so there's no time to requisition or scrounge for extra equipment. Morozov answers questions about the mission, but some aspects remain classified. Due to the jammed communications and demonstrated air superiority of the enemy, no aerial support or extraction is possible. He has no details about the hidden research outpost other than its geographical location. Questions about why the outpost even exists are met with an awkward and immediate dismissal. The staging area where the heroes are now is about 20 kilometers north of the heart of Moscow. They must travel south to the coordinates, then back north beyond Moscow to the meeting point at Trinity Lavra of St. Sergius, a monastery being converted to a military forward base. Sunset is at 2100 hours, which is also when the team is due at the rally point. It's 1700 hours by the time the briefing ends and the operation begins, giving the team roughly 4 hours to get in, find this lab, and then get out. As the Tiger rolls towards Moscow, the soldiers get their first sight of Tharkold's Maelstrom Bridge. The city around it is obscured by smoke from fires, dark storm clouds swirl above, strange lightning arcs down into the city, or skitters across the dark shape in the sky. Between the ground and the storm stretches a huge metallic tower, wider than a city block. The structure looks almost organic, like a tentacle or a finger. Its presence on the horizon is jarring. On the outskirts, the heroes see people trudging away from the city carrying heavy sacks. Some pull makeshift carts. Small vehicles speed past the Tiger, heading north away from the storm as fast as they can. Traffic jam. The driver must attempt a very hard difficulty number 16 land vehicles test to avoid the evacuation traffic streaming from the city. A success avoids traffic and trouble, but a failure lands the vehicle in the middle of a wall of unmoving, honking cars filled with desperate people. The drivers are shouting and angry, calling out to see if the soldiers know what's happening. A fine test determines the main culprit of the traffic jam is a collision between 2 cars, neither of which is able to move. Kinder characters might try to organize the traffic or rally people to push the vehicles out of the way, with a hard DN14 persuasion or intimidation test. Alternatively, the Tiger is capable of simply driving over the top of the solid cars with an easy DN8 land vehicles test. Doing so is fast, but damages more vehicles and may harm civilians on a failure. Inside the city proper, the Tharkold world laws and axioms are on the table. Worker and farmer. Well, here's the weapons. They're weapons and gear that some of the characters have, so it just kind of gives us info for GMs. Worker and farmer. Heading deeper into Moscow, the warriors begin hearing the familiar sounds of automatic weapons, mixed in with the less familiar sounds of the strange energy weapons used by the invaders. In the distance, they spy the entrance to the Vidinka exhibition, and outside the famous worker and kolkhoz woman statue of a man and a woman raising a hammer and sickle respectively. The soldiers have no understanding of core Earth hardpoints, but this is one. A group of 10 humanoid figures in collars and thick padded armor plant explosives around its base as 20 more pour into the exhibition, likely to do the same to the Cosmonaut Museum and other historical artifacts. Protecting the site isn't part of the mission, but nationalistic pride might cause the soldiers to try to intervene anyway. Such an act triggers a moment of crisis, but earns the fury of the thrall forces in the area. The fact that a hardpoint is involved adds a few wrinkles to this conflict. If the heroes move close to the statue, within 50 meters, only the core Earth cosmos, world laws, and axioms apply. The heroes don't understand what's happening, but they feel the changes and can draw on any conclusions they like. The thralls close to the statue are in a core Earth dominant zone. That means their weapons won't work at all thanks to the lower axioms, and a surge result on the drama card could make them disconnect and flee. The first chance they get, they move out of the hardpoint's dominant zone. Thralls 4 per hero, sees page 96. The Outpost. No other obstacles block the path to the outpost coordinates. The sounds of war shake the area, including artillery fire. The sky is dominated by the Maelstrom Bridge, and slender tendrils stretch out from the main body to plunge into the ground kilometers away. Using binoculars or a sniper scope on a nearer tendril reveals that the black metal is covered by thick, clear slime oozing off the structure like mucus. Gender and customization. It may seem unusual that this group of soldiers is a mixture of men and women, but Russian special forces have been of mixed gender for over a decade. Beyond this adventure, any of the characters provided may be switched to different genders, ethnic backgrounds, or personalities as desired. Most of the names selected work equally well for men and women. The skills and statistics for each remain the same, but anything else is player's choice. Nice. That's nice to read. The site of the outpost itself is a burned-out old housing block, one of the ugly concrete kind erected in the 60s. A quick reconnaissance reveals that it is occupied by refugees. About a dozen civilians have taken refuge in what's left of the structure. There are no signs of the scientists or any research equipment, but the coordinates are definitely here. There's no way to search the location without moving into the area with the civilians. It's up to the team how they interact with the non-combatants. The most notable personalities among them include Vasily, a young boy about 10. He lies silent and motionless with a Komar drone, see page 96, wrapped around his head. Its proboscis inserted into his skull. The creature appears dead and inactive, but removing it seems risky. A heroic DN18 medicine test removes the thing without causing the boy to bleed out. Now I gotta read about this. Let's see, page 96. We're on page 87. Komar drone. Insectoid flyers with 4 adjustable rotors in place of wings. Komars have extensive sensor packages and a sharp metal proboscis. They plunge into people or animals to refuel, since these drones are powered by blood. Nice. The creatures are 0.5 meter to 1 meter in length. That's awesome. All right. Here's a map. The coordinates lead to a concrete housing ravaged by recent fighting. Olga, Vasily's mother and the spokeswoman for the other refugees. She has deep worry lines that belie her young age and a tangle of brown hair. Her main priority is getting her son help, but she pulled both Gennady and Zoya into cover from where each fell outside. Please help him. He's only a boy, is her quote. Gennady, a young soldier. He's been blinded and has deep lacerations on both legs. Olga's done what she can for him. Gennady softly asks for water, often. Padre says, Tharkold biomechanical constructs are very cool. Yeah, I really like that. That's super creepy. Quote, I'm so thirsty. Just a little water is all I need. Zoya, a fearless old woman buried under 4 layers of clothing with the typical babushka wrapped around her head. As a young girl, Zoya witnessed the Battle of Stalingrad herself. She has no remaining family and a sharp tongue she happily deploys against any soldiers who seem lacking in humanity or humility. Quote, "Tomorrow comes whether or not you or I are there to see it." All the civilians are hungry to know what's going on, who the invaders are, and what the government plans to do about it. They beg the heroes to spare time to look at Vasily and Gennady. Meanwhile, outside, the sounds of combat grow even closer. A successful find test detects instrumentation and sensors along the walls, going outside, and what's left of the roof. The electrical connections for all of them lead down to a basement, and then straight into the floor. A search for the basement reveals a hatch hidden under the floor. No tests are needed. The race uses everything they can, even the weapons of their enemies, the techno-demons. Just the hatch is discovered, there are signs of trouble up above. If any of the team stood watch, they see small flying drones shaped somewhat like mosquitoes floating toward the building. Each is about the size of a small dog. If no one stayed on watch, the refugees spot the creatures and cry out in terror instead. See, SF Heath says, powered by blood, very evocative. Tharkold feels so very Stranger Things to me. Definitely, yeah. They do a great job of setting the techno horror tone of the Chasm. Yeah. Very cool. I really like the art. I really like the idea of technology and demons together. It seems cool. And then if you want to hear more about Tharkold, if you missed it, yesterday Tim and I had Greg Gordon on the Ulysses World Show. You can check that out. It's on YouTube and it's on our website. You can go check those out. The website has the show notes. Kind of talks a little links about what we talked about. Doesn't really have Greg's answers to questions I had, some of which are on the show notes, but Greg answers them, in the voice and video. So he talks a lot about kind of what changed from original Torg to Torg Eternity as far as Tharkold goes. What are some of the themes? Obviously talking about horror and techno horror, so definitely good stuff. Behind the drones in the distance, a group of armed humanoids move carefully up the street. Unlike the thralls at the museum, these look like burned bodies, with portions of skeleton showing through charred flesh. They have cameras inside their sunken eye sockets, and every one of them is missing its lower jaw. Instead, a long, segmented mechanical tongue juts out from the creature's throats, made of the same material as the Maelstrom Bridge and drones. Padre says, Doom-esque. I wish I'd caught the Greg interview live. Well, there'll be plenty more kind of interviews and talking about Tharkold as we gear up for it, gear up for the crowdfunding, and there'll be more previews as well. So check those out on the website. There's 2 previews out so far. One that talks about kind of what's been going on in Tharkold a little bit, and then one that talks about aspirants, which are basically which are new for Torg Eternity, but they are techno demons that have that can be played as player characters, and they have apparently some new reasons why aspirants are allowed. That's something new that was not an original Torg. So the soldiers can quickly move through the hatch and close it behind them. That avoids the creatures, but surely dooms any refugees left behind. Vasily in particular can't be moved even if the drone was removed. If the group wishes to take the refugees into the lab, remind them of its classified nature. The team could also stand and fight, especially if they fear the enemy might discover their Tiger transport. Even damage, the concrete walls provide concealment and cover, +6 toughness against enemy attacks. There are plenty of spots for a sniper on the 2nd floor. Either way, the group must choose quickly. There's no time to argue. Goals, 3 per hero, see page 95, and Komar drones, 1 per 2 heroes. Scene 2, the lab. Standard scene. The chamber below smells of blood and death. The lights are off but flickering. Flickering screens provide some ambient light. Surprisingly, hooded chains dangle from the ceiling. A closer examination reveals some of them are coated in dried blood. Blood and chains. A metal operating table stands near the base of the winding stairwell. It drips with blood, and a skinless corpse is chained to it. lidless eyes staring at the ceiling in horror. A second corpse is suspended in the chains above, staring back down into the eyes of the one on the table. A successful evidence analysis test concludes that the corpse chained on the table was female. It isn't immediately obvious due to the damage done, and her height and assumed weight are a match for Dr. Petrova, one of the scientists stationed here, according to the team's mission packets. A good success adds that her skin wasn't sliced off. There are no incisions in the muscles or soft tissue visible. It was somehow dissolved. An outstanding result proves the cause of death was blood loss, which indicates she was still alive when her skin was removed. Checking the corpse in the chains above reveals a little more information. He has multiple lacerations, and some of the chains pierce his limbs and torso. Based on the mission files, he should be either Dr. Volkov or Dr. Smirnoff, but there's no way to tell which. Toward the back of the room, equipment still hums. Screens show unintelligible graphs, and reams of paper with streams of numbers roll out of printers. Dr. Smirnoff. In the corner of the room, slumped and groggy, is the third scientist. He's short, unshaven, and his lab coat is splattered in blood. He's still wearing an ID badge with his picture and the name Smirnoff emblazoned on it. He startles awake once approached. What Smirnoff knows. First, and most important, he notes that the presence of the retrieval squad means things must be desperate, and the general staff are preparing to invoke the Svarog protocol, a nuclear strike against the city itself. He stifles an awkward laugh as he says this aloud, and then pleads that the team must find some way to stop the strike. Then he becomes suddenly fearful and says they must all get away from Moscow as quickly as possible. 50 kilotons would probably do the job, but why chance it? They'll probably use 200. If asked about Petrova and Volkov, he solemnly states that they were patriots and he admired their courage in the face of what they all had to do. He rubs his lab coat pockets absently while he speaks of them. If he's checked, the soldiers find the skin of each doctor's face in his pocket, cut out like masks. He grins sheepishly and laughs nervously if the masks are discovered, like a child caught with a forbidden toy. Nice. I like the horror elements so far. Very cool. If left, one of the heroes gathers the data. Smirnoff babbles to himself about Gorgabus. Then he whimpers words like Kronod, Maelstrom Bridge, and Stele, though he doesn't seem to know what any of these words mean. Prompted for additional information, the doctor looks wild-eyed and points to the chains, then tries to put one of the face masks over his face and blubbers. Perhaps now Gorgabus can't see me. Smirnoff knows what was happening in the lab, but doesn't want to speak about it. He sneers and answers any questions about the subject of the lab's research as cryptically as possible. A standard difficulty persuasion or intimidation test makes him talk. He points to the thumb drives, which each hero may already have collected, and says, "It's all on there, everything we could collect when the invaders' bridge came down." He warns that those in power won't be grateful once the data is delivered. The team has already seen too much, such as the fact that the research post was in place before the invaders came. Smirnoff is certain that suicide missions await the team once this job is done, or even worse is in store for him. The lab was sealed from the outside weeks ago, and an evidence analysis test of the gathered data verifies that. Smirnoff claims that he had orders, but had no idea what was coming. He begs the team to get him out of Moscow, but also not to deliver him or the data to the government. He's crazed and obviously dangerous, but Smirnoff makes no aggressive moves toward the group unless they attack him first. If he's attacked, he suddenly defends himself, calling the chains that fill the room to his aid. Nice. See Dr. Smirnoff, page 96. Let's go look at that. Dr. Smirnoff is a smallish, bearded man with sunken eyes and an annoying giggle. His mind snapped during the initial invasion. He's now a thrall of Gorgabus, but he doesn't really remember that, except in his most lucid moments. Quote, "We knew it was coming, and we chose to study it rather than stop it. We're the true monsters." Special abilities, chains. Smirnoff may use conjuration to summon chains and attack a target within 50 meters. That's a good distance. Crazed. On any mishap, Dr. Smirnoff stops what he's doing and gibbers to himself for the remainder of the encounter, even if he's attacked. The data. If anyone... So anybody in the chat, have you run this adventure? How did it go? Did your players do anything unexpected while you ran it? The data. If anyone takes the time to look at the data before collecting the thumb drives and any papers strewn about, an evidence analysis test pieces together that the data has been recording for weeks, though all the major activity is confined to the last 20 hours. Apart from that, the actual readings being collected seems like nonsense. The real problem is what the team chooses to do with the data and the doctor. No matter what they decide, leaving the area before the nuclear strike is likely a high priority. Planer says, not yet. I will be soon. Cool. Scene 3, Convoy of Death. Dramatic scene. The crew emerges from the lab, but there are new faces among the refugees that stayed above, or checking bodies if the refugees were abandoned in their fate. These newcomers are humans, dressed like the thralls the soldiers saw or fought back at the Fidenke. They quickly raise their hands and signal peaceful intentions. Padre says, I've seen it run online, but that's it. Kyode. She has sad eyes and a deep scar around her neck, where she once wore a Tharkoldu slave collar. She is wary but friendly and answers questions as best as she can. Quote, we can work together or die separately. What Kyode knows. The leader of this band of escapees shares what she can. The construct that landed on the Kremlin is called a Maelstrom Bridge, a gateway to a different realm known as Tharkold. Tharkold is ruled by the techno-demons, foul creatures of dark magic and twisted technology. They are led by a demon named Kranad. Let's see what this says. Captured weapons. At some point, the team is likely to recover weapons from the invaders and attempt to use them. All the Tharkold weapons are Tech 25. A Storm Knight who has switched to the Tharkold Cosm may use them without contradiction since the local zone supports them. However, a Core Earth Storm Knight, or a soldier who hasn't transcended, invites a one-case contradiction when using them since the weapon's tech axiom is above their own. That means on a roll of a 1, the character disconnects. Worth noting, malfunctions and disconnection are different. So a long burst is used, a roll of 1. So if a long burst is used, a roll of a 1 disconnects the hero on a 1-case contradiction, but a 1 to 3 still causes the weapon to malfunction. The bigger issue is the alphas. The bigger issue is the alphas use the energy weapons skill, which none of the heroes have. Oh, the alph. Oh, that's the creatures. Gotcha. The alphs use the energy weapon skill, which none of the heroes have adds in. Not only is the character using only his dexterity for the attack, but a roll of 20 doesn't roll again using the skill is unentrained. The Thabs use the fire combat skill, so at least those work like weapons the heroes are used to. All of this adds up to the soldiers being best served using the equipment they've trained with, especially since they have plenty of ammunition. This image says, by sunset, Moscow is going to be engulfed in fire. It's time to ride. The techno-demons have ruled Tharkold for centuries, and in that time began invading other realities, although never one as strong or as dangerous as this one. Padre says the only one recommendation I saw was to give some extra XP to the PCs to reflect their elite status. I haven't really been paying that close attention to the characters, the Ord characters that these come with. Are they all pretty much the same, or which kind of sounds like what you're saying, Padre, that they all sort of seem the same. So these characters being Spetsnaz should maybe have a little bit more oomph to them. The race have been slaves of the demons for generations. Some thrive on the vicious conditions in Tharkold, but many more wish to win freedom. Kyode and her crew escaped when their slave collars malfunctioned in the Core Earth hardpoint. She has basic understanding of how reality and Stella behave, and passes on this information if asked. Kranad has formed an alliance with other possibility raiders to attack Earth at the same time. Such an alliance is unprecedented. She expects the treacherous demons to turn on their allies as soon as it suits them. Kyode's former master is a techno-demon named Gorgabus. She spits when she says his name and explains he is an abusive master who never got very high in the demonic hierarchy. Whenever he suffered a setback, he took it out on the thralls. She jumped at the chance to get away from him. She warns the soldiers not to underestimate techno-demons. Even the lesser examples like Gorgwest can tear through dozens of men. Occult tech weapons can destroy trucks and even tanks. The best way to deal with such a creature is to run. Ride or die. Thanks to the Smirnoff's ravings, the team should be aware of the entire area is scheduled for imminent destruction, and time is short. Warning others isn't possible thanks to the broad spectrum jamming used by the techno-demons. Getting out in time is a chase. The nuclear blast detonates at the end of the 5th round. The group needs vehicles for this chase. The soldiers should still have their Tiger transport, which can fit up to 8 people. The race arrived in a stolen Kamaz truck, which carries up to 12 people, and 2 Yamaha R1 motorcycles. They offered the driver's seat for any of the vehicles, so long as the team agrees to bring along the refugees and freedom fighters. Any vehicle that doesn't have a player driving or on board disappears from the chase early on, separated by debris or enemies. The fate of its passengers remains a mystery. Vasily, if still alive, poses a special problem due to his injuries. If the people carrying him suffer a mishap, or if any setback appears during the chase, he begins bleeding profusely. A challenging DN-12 first aid test stops the bleeding, otherwise he dies after 1 round. Possible setbacks. Possible setbacks in this chase could be routes cut off by destruction, abandoned vehicles, or enemy forces. Complications might represent mechanical trouble such as overheating engines, damaged suspension, or low fuel. A critical problem may be a raging fire that forces the convoy to turn around and choose an entirely new route out of the city. Hot pursuit. As the chase begins, Komar drones appear to harass the convoy. At the beginning of the 2nd round, 10 ghouls riding Yamaha R1 motorcycles join the chase, summoned by the drones. On the 3rd round, a T90 tank captured by the thralls appears. They've taken the time to decorate their prize with skulls and chains. At the start of the 5th and last round, swarms of Russian aircraft streak overhead toward the Maelstrom Bridge, alerting the heroes that they are almost out of time. At the end of the 5th round, note what steps everyone has completed. The blinding flash of the nuclear blast stops everything at this point. Komar drones, 1 per 2 heroes. Ghouls, 2 per hero starting on round 2. Yamaha R1s, 1 per ghoul. T90 tanks, 1 starting on round 3. The fastest vehicles in the chase have a top speed value of 13, so that becomes the difficulty number for gaining steps in the chase. The vehicles are all fast and gain +2 bonus on tests to gain steps in the chase, but also suffer any listed maneuverability rating penalty. Those on foot, including the Komar drones, test dexterity to gain steps. Both sides have weapons and are likely to attempt to shoot at one another during the chase. Every step of difference counts as a -2 range penalty. Thus, a vehicle that hasn't completed any steps at all firing at a vehicle that had completed step B suffers a -4 penalty to the shot, and vice versa. Drones and humans on foot use dodge as a defense, while vehicles use the driver's land vehicle skill minus any maneuverability rating penalty. Collision damage is based on the vehicle's top speed value. Drones and runners don't suffer collisions. Those only apply to vehicles. The driver of each vehicle should focus on completing steps. Each step takes them further away from the explosion and also makes it harder for pursuers like the T90 to hit with a devastating cannon shot. Others may fire personal weapons, the Tiger's turret, or use other interactions to stymie the pursuers. Interactions suffer the same range penalty that attacks do. Stunts are another option for drivers. They use the land vehicle skill, and success adds conditions stymied or vulnerable to the target, or a collision on an outstanding success. The drones focus on interactions against the convoy, attempting to stymie drivers to buy time for reinforcements to catch up. Roll a single test for all the ghouls, unless they split into smaller groups to chase different heroes. There's no combined action bonus for gaining steps, but the bonus does apply when they attack. The ghouls' defense is 11, 9 for drivers, land vehicles, no penalty for the motorcycles, maneuverability rating, and +2 because it's fast. The T90 tank enters the chase late. Each round it takes a shot at the Tiger and uses the multi-action to attempt a step if one of it's available. If one is available. A lucky hit from the main cannon is devastating, so stymie that tank. Its defense is only 8, 10 for the driver's land vehicles, -4 for maneuverability rating, and +2 from its fast top speed. Passengers suffer the shock from attacks against the vehicle. If the vehicle is destroyed or suffers a collision, everyone aboard takes the damage as well. Survivors remain at their current step and could opt to continue on foot or try to find tests to procure a new vehicle or motorcycle. Destroyer of worlds. The exact effect of the explosion depends on which step of the chase a vehicle completed. No steps, damage 50 +1 bonus damage. The surrounding area is completely leveled and dosed with lethal radiation. Step A, damage 40 +1 BD. Waves of fire and pressure destroy most structures. Damage 30 +1 BD. Shockwaves damage most buildings. Thermal radiation scorches surfaces. Step C, damage 20 +1 BD. Burns occur even through clothing. Pressure hurls debris through the air. Step D, damage 10 +1 BD. Exposed skin suffers first or secondary burns, but no significant damage is done to structures. The blast occurs at sunset. The explosion shatters the Maelstrom Bridge and scatters debris in every direction. The reality storm over the city grows even more intense. Lightning crackles throughout the sky above, and strong winds carry much of the fallout far to the north. So I'm wondering how lethal that damage is. I mean, 50 sounds like a lot. Let's see. Oh, they don't have that listed here. Oh, here it goes. 10 shock and 3 wounds. So I think 50 is going to kill you. Where are we at? The blast occurs at sunset. Oh, yeah. Let me read that part. Here's a little map. It's not over yet. The convoy is ambushed by techno-demon magic. Scene 4, Gorgobus. Dramatic scene. The survivors of the blast have a few minutes to recover shock and let the weight of what they've just witnessed sink in. Any foes who completed Step D of the chase flee the area for now, and the rest are destroyed by the blast. Just as the rest of the world grows quiet and still, an enraged bellow pierces the sky, and a huge figure lands heavily in front of the convoy. Chains erupt from the ground to ensnare the vehicle's tires and pin down surviving allies. If Dr. Smirnoff is still with the party, some of the chains erupt from his eye sockets, and he howls like a lost soul and moves to aid his master. Any survivors from the chase arrive and join in as well. This is the techno-demon Gorgobus. Worms, pathetic fleshy things, I may terminate your suffering someday, but for now you are mine. Gorgobus followed the heroes via the drone attached to Vasily. Through Dr. Smirnoff's eyes, or if nothing else, thanks to a previously undetected drone attached to one of the vehicles. The demon is nearly blind with rage due to the destruction of the Maelstrom Bridge and has lost sight of his original goals. Now he wants to fight and eventually kill the humans and traitors he holds responsible for this violation. Any hero who hasn't had a moment of crisis yet experiences one the moment they stand and fight against this being of pure evil. Padre says it's survivable with the right cards and possibilities. A 20 reality test will soak all damage. Gotcha. Epilogue. If the Storm Knights defeat the demon or escape his wrath, there are no further threats from Moscow. Now they must make their fateful decisions of whether to report back to base with the new findings or to take their chances in the strange new world created by the fallout from the destroyed Maelstrom Bridge. Any surviving members of the race wish to strike out on their own and encourage the soldiers to join them. Those who return to the rally point are congratulated for their success and hailed as heroes of the Federation. Unfortunately, according to official records, they are lost in combat some weeks later, after the government reaches a détente with the Tharkold. Those too cynical to return find the world around them has changed drastically. The world laws of Tharkold extend across huge swaths of Russia, as far away as the debris scattered. All that's left is survival of the fittest by any means necessary. Until one day, a United Nations VTOL aircraft lands, and a strange American steps out looking for those strong enough to fight the invaders. A fight without quarter is or compromise. A fight to the bitter end. Interested in some payback, comrades? He growls in Russian. Nice. So let's read some of these threats. We still got a little bit of time left. The ghouls. The ghouls are desiccated human corpses controlled by a mechanical tongue. The body's lower jaw is always removed when the machine crawls in and inhabits its carcass. The carcass. When a ghoul is destroyed, the tongue wriggles around the ground like a worm looking for a new host. Nice. Special abilities, Cyber Tongue. Uses unarmed attack. The metal tongue deals strength +2, 11 damage. If the attack deals a wound, the target is also restrained. Fear. Ghouls are animated corpses controlled by writhing cybernetic tongues. When first encountered them, test willpower or spirit or become very stymied. Relentless. Ghouls ignore shock and undead. They are immune to poison and other effects that require breathing, eating, or other living processes. Thralls. These deranged servants have had their will broken by the sadistic techno-demon masters. Most wear explosive stake collars and intimidating armor. Here's Gorgobus, the demon. Gorgobus is a relatively minor demon, forced to the front lines by his lazier and more formidable superiors. The only lucky break he's had since the invasion started was while out trying to recover his escaped thralls when the Maelstrom Bridge was destroyed. He's seething with rage and just looking for someone on whom to take it out. Pathetic monkeys, I'll flay your skin. That's a great quote. Armor, cybernetic plating +3. Chains. A techno-demon may use a conjuration to summon chains and attack a target within 50 meters, damage 15. This attack may use the standard grappling rules. Dread. While a techno-demon is present, a standard scene becomes a dramatic scene. Fear. Techno-demons inspire instinctive horror in creatures who see them. Test willpower or spirit or become very stymied. Flight. Moves 6 in the air. Large. Most techno-demons stand 3 or more meters tall. Attacks against them gain a +2 bonus. And minions. The techno-demon may transfer any hit to a lackey within a few meters if he succeeds at a reality test. That's awesome. I really like that. So we already read this one. There's the drone and the vehicles. Nice. I think that's probably about it. Yep. And then we're on to the next one. So very cool. This quick adventure, you could easily run this in one session. I think as long as your players don't dilly-dally too much, but it seems like it would easily fit into a session. So very cool start for Tharkold. So once again, if you want to hear Greg talk about talk more about Tharkold and the upcoming Kickstarter, the upcoming crowdfunding, I've really got to get over that since we are using Game On a lot. So the overall crowdfunding, go check that out. It's going to be coming out at the end of this month. We're looking at June 23rd through July 14th. Thank you for posting that planner. That is now in the chat if you want to check that out. And Deanna has been posting more content, more previews. Go check those out on the website as well. With that, I'm Robert Adichie for Ulysses Spiel, Ulysses International. We'll see you on Monday. Bye-bye.